Welcome to the Powerlifting and Power Ballads podcast, where we bring you a weekly dose of powerlifting news, tips, and training advice with a touch of 80s rock ballads. This podcast is presented by Team Roar Powerlifting, your source of the most comprehensive coaching and meet day preparation. Here are your hosts, Josh Rohr and Lara Sturm.
All right, so I posted a poll on my social media the other day. Basically, it was asking what the correct terminology is. And the question was, the first lifter is up, the second lifter is on deck, the third lifter is either in the hold, HOLD, or in the hole. And the results of the vote, there were 413 people that voted in the hole, HOLE, which was 93% of the vote. And some of the names that stood out that voted this were Mike Tashir, Jan Dario, John D'Alessio, Matt Gary, Wade Johnson, Brad Couillard, and the guys from Two White Lights, Angelo and Steve. There were only 30 people that voted in the hold, HOLD, with only 7%. A couple names that stood out in that vote was Jose Leon, Ron Brinker, Tony Harris, Zach Cooper, and this guy who's joining me now to defend the vote for in the hold, Gino Powerlifting. What's up, Gino?
Hey, how are you, Josh? Roar! Can't wait
Hanging
to
in
talk
there.
about this.
Yeah, so you are very adamant that it is in the hold, HOLD, and I would like to know why.
Well, and I got this from a guy who was in the military. This is a power lifter who was in the special forces in Vietnam. And he is quite adamant about the history of it, and everything evolves over time. But the true meaning when it first came out was developed or thought of by the military, specifically the Navy part of the military. And when they had planes on the aircraft carriers, and they're all taking off one after the other, the first plane takes off. That's who's up. On deck was the next plane, and in the hold. Now, it's not in the hole, HOLE. It's in the hold to stick with the military references. It's short for the cargo hold on a military ship, the cargo hold. Now, it's symbolism, it's imagery to get the brain to understand who's first, who's second, and who's third. Okay, the plane is not literally in the cargo hold. That's down below where they store all of their items in their inventory, down in the cargo hold. The plane is not down there, obviously, but it's giving you the symbolism of the imagery to let you know who's first, who's second, and who's third. And each one of the symbolism there is first you're right on the deck, ready to shoot off the aircraft carrier. You're not on the deck. I'm sorry. You're on the runway to shoot off the aircraft carrier. On deck is you're up on the deck up there, but you're off to the side because you're second. And then third is in the cargo hold, meaning you're one further step removed. Now, they did use that as symbolism because if you want to get really technical about it, there is no cargo hold in a aircraft carrier. There are cargo holds in all of the other ships. The aircraft carrier is just for planes. But it was the military guys in the 40s in World War II that used those references. Who's up, who's on deck, who's in the hold, meaning the cargo hold of the military. Now, as time went on, it seems that the baseball players got a hold of this, and they started to say who's up, meaning who's at the plate, who's on deck. On deck means they're standing in that little circle over there to the side, which is the on deck circle. Well, and then they call the third one in the hole. Well, let's talk about that for a second. Again, they're talking about symbolism, all right? Imagery, because who's up is standing at the plate. Who's on deck? He's on the on deck circle. That's not a deck. It's not a military deck. That's not a deck off your backyard. It's a circle in the grass that they stand in. And then who's in the hole, HOLE, they're not in some hole in the ground getting ready to dig out when they got to go on deck. Okay, so again, it's all imagery as you move from 1, 2, 3. Every time you move further away, you're moving further away symbolically. Now, I believe that the baseball players started to call it in the hole, because they were mishearing what the military guys were saying. Because when you say in the hole and in the hold, it can kind of sound the same. But the origin of it was military, naval, in the cargo hold on a deck. So it's in the hold. And the baseball players changed it to that. But even the current military guys now say in the hold, meaning the cargo hold. They were the originators of this sequencing of 1, 2, and 3, and thereby I believe they should get the credit for it. And you guys got to stop watching so much baseball and watch more of the military shows, and then you'll see how it's who's up, who's on deck, who's in the hole. Does any of that make sense to you, Josh?
It does. So I have a couple follow-ups to that. So
Yeah.
one of the things that so when I posted that on the story, a lot of people reshared it, and a lot of people made a comment when they reshared it that anybody that watches baseball knows the true answer. So again, they say hole, HOLE. But it's funny. I looked it up on Wikipedia,
Yeah.
just to get some like official definitions here. And I looked up what in the hole means, and well, I got a couple things. I'll start with this one. So this is Wikipedia. It
All right.
says due up at bat after the on deck batter, probably derived from boating, where it was originally in the hold, HOLD, the place prior to being on deck. In the hole, HOLE, is a corruption of the original nautical term made popular by people who did not understand the original origin. Today, the corruption has become universal. So,
You just nailed it right there, pal. That's
right.
exactly right. Wasn't I saying the same thing?
Yeah. So basically, and I saw another post somewhere that basically, because everybody has started saying in the hole, because it's easier to say, and that's what it sounds like anyway. Everybody says that. So because what is it, 93% of these people in the world probably call it in the hole, does that now mean that that is correct? Because 93% of the people say it that way
Society
now.
has society has changed that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see. You could argue that both ways, couldn't you?
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of a believer in the origin of things, and how they originally came about, and giving that some credit. But evolutionarily speaking, if you want to get into it that way, things do change over time. Let me really get esoteric on you. Go to the Galapagos Islands, and there are turtles that live on the edge of the shore in the ocean, and they can swim around, and they eat and swim around in the water. Then there are also tortoises that are up on the rocks on the cliffs up there, and they are more apt and have, according to Darwin's theory of evolution, have developed over time to be able to climb the rocks, and they're not as aquatic as the other tortoises that are by the ocean, which is simply evolution. So if you want to say that it's evolved because the baseball players didn't understand it when they first did it, but it became universally known as the years went by, then you could say nowadays the point in time that we are at right now in the hold is incorrectly being used because it's evolved over time to become that. However, it's not the original meaning, and any Vietnam veteran or World War II veteran that I have spoken to will tell you, and they have told me, it is in the hold, the cargo hold. So who wants to challenge that?
Well, I got a whole list of here, 413 people.
That's a lot of people.
It is. And that's what's funny. Like, I really thought it was going to be at least a little bit closer than it ended up, but I agree with you. But I think so. Let me ask you the question. So when you're announcing, do you make it an effort to put the D on the end, or do you just like let it roll?
You're gonna laugh. Listen to me say. You ready? Josh Rohr is up. Mike Teixeira is on deck. Ray Williams is in the hole. When you're shouting like that, I don't really clearly state what I'm saying. In the hole.
That's not what I asked. I asked what your
Oh, I'm
intent
getting there.
is.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm getting there, pal. Oh, I know. I know where you're going. I'm trying to give you the background first. So Josh Rohr is up. Mike Teixeira is on deck, and Ray Williams is in the hole. And I didn't really pronounce it with a lot of diction and clarity, which means I'll bet half the people would hear in the hold and half the people would hear in the hole. It depends upon what they hear. What do? I do exactly that. I intentionally don't emphasize the word so that I make everybody happy because they all hear what they want to hear. There's only one guy, the Vietnam veteran who's special forces, Mike Rosenwald is his name. He always makes sure that I say in the hold, and he'll come up and correct me. So whenever he's competing in a competition or he's chief referee, I walk right up to him and I say, in the hold, right to him. And he gets a big smile on his face and he gives me the thumbs up that he's very happy that I'm saying it correctly.
Yeah. Well, so basically you're trying to please everybody. I got
it. There you go, pal. Which is my job. I try to make everybody happy in my job and not take sides. You know, I recently posted a girl who was warming up on the bench, making reference to the new the elbows have to break parallel, otherwise they have too short a range of motion. You're
talking about the IPF rule.
Yeah, the IPF rule. But I decided to take a stand on that, and I said, look, she is breaking, her elbows are breaking that 45-degree angle on the side, and that's a legit lift. And her range of motion was not the 1 inch or the 2 inch that you see occasionally. She had like somewhere between 4 to 6 inches at least. And everybody sees what they want to see. I took a stance on that, and I took one particular side, Josh. I had 67,000 people view it, and most of them took nasty shots at me, saying it's unfair, it's cheating. They just went on and on and on and on. And they would all say, oh, yeah, that's real fair, a 1 inch range of motion. And if you look at the video, Josh, it's at least 6 inches. So people hear what they want to hear and see what they want to see, even when the truth is right there in front of them in black and white or in color in that particular case. But 67,000 people only saw what they wanted to see and not what was right in front of them.
How many of them have ever competed in powerlifting, do you think?
Yeah, I know there's a lot of basement vloggers out there doing that. I'll say that. But then again, it's a stupid rule to begin with. But sometimes the IPF, I heard they were thinking about doing away with sumo stance too and deadlift. If they go down that road, they're going down a crazy path. I'll tell you that. I'm glad we're not affiliated with them anymore and have to put up with those types of rules. I even got a little sarcastic when the person said they should be banned from powerlifting. One person, I said, well, given that fact, why don't we ban little people from squatting, because they have an advantage? And while we're at it, why don't we ban people from sumo stance, because they have an advantage? And people would respond back and they'd say, well, people that choose to do sumo have the choice. They can do the other one. And the little people have no choice because that's how tall they are. And I would respond back and I'd say, I'm being sarcastic. Do you know what sarcasm is? And it's amazing how they believe me. They actually thought I was saying, let's ban little people and let's ban sumo deadlifters, because I was trying to make a point that if you're going to ban the short stroke on the bench, everybody has an advantage. Short people have an advantage in the squat. They have a disadvantage in the deadlift because they can't get their hands around the bar with big full grip because they have shorter hands. and somebody that's got the advantage and can pull sumo, that's their choice. They've trained that way. So I tried to show how ridiculous it was, but again, there's a lot of stupidity out there, and a lot of people that just they don't know sarcasm. They're so opinionated that they won't open up to another opinion. They won't see what's right in front of them, and so I'm glad we have the rules that we have. I think we're in the right direction. Not to change the subject, but it's in the whole duh.
All right. Well, I brought you on as the official authority on the subject because
Being that I'm the one that says it the most.
Yeah, exactly. As the person that says it more than any other person, I figured you would be the one to make the final call on that. So, in the hold is the official,
Yeah, you know the kind of crap we're going to get for this, especially when 93% feel we're wrong and 7% feel we're right.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get called all kinds of things, but yeah, I don't care about that. Do you?
I could care less. I don't even respond to I started to respond to those people on the bench thing, and then I just said, "Why am I wasting my time?" 67,000 people. I got better things to do, Josh.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, who really gives a shit about if they hear the D at the end or not? Because even if you are intentionally saying hold with the D, most people probably won't hear it. So
no, they don't. And I'm going to say this again, Josh. I intentionally don't emphasize the ending of that word just to make everybody happy.
Yeah,
or at least try anyway.
Yeah, right.
Hey, Josh, not to change the subject.
Yeah.
What's the future of equipped powerlifting down the road for USAPL?
I don't know, man. I'm still optimistic on it. I think a lot of people still compete equipped. I think there's still people getting into it. So to me, I think it's still growing. I mean, people have differing opinions, but here, let me tell you a secret, Gino.
Go ahead.
Laura and I, we have decided that when we do, opinion things like that or do polls, that we are going to just decide that the winner is what we think.
Yeah.
Because it's our podcast. So that's my opinion, is equipped is going to continue to grow. So you can argue differently. You're on the podcast, so you actually can, but
well, I know what your stance is, so I kind of asked a loaded question. I knew what the answer was going to be, and I happen to agree with you. I guess I get back to the origins. Okay, the origin of In the Hold. Okay, was military back in the 40s. You want to know why I'm a big believer in equip and being not as big as Raw, but to have a future in USA powerlifting, is because when I got my start 20 something years ago, everybody was lifting with equipment. Everybody. It's been this transition over the years to Raw, like the transition to the baseball players saying in the hole, not hold. But I believe that it's a talent to learn to get the full benefit of all of the equipment that you use. And I think there'll always be a place for those individuals that want to pursue the sport in that capacity.
Yeah, I agree. And I always like to play devil's advocate too.
Yes, I know that about you.
Yeah, shocker. So on the other side here, I think, just speaking arbitrarily, the number of equip lifters, I'll use myself as an example. When I was coming up, I competed equipped, but that's basically all there was. But more importantly, the training methods and some of the things, recovery things that I did or didn't do, I think now are coming back to bite me, because there just wasn't as much information. There wasn't as much good coaching back then that there is now. So I think a lot of equip lifters somewhat have to use equipment after so many years of training stupid, because they've injured themselves or they've just had, different things. So I think now there's still people that train stupid. So I think there's always going to still be people hurting themselves. But I think in general, the knowledge is so much greater and more widely spread about how to train properly, how to recover those things, that I don't think people are going to get as hurt
Right.
training and competing. So, and I'm not saying like powerlifters always were getting hurt either, but just, I think younger lifters in general don't think they need to do stretching or recovery work, because at the end of the day, they can train their butt off, go home, go out partying, come back to the gym the next day and train again. And, they feel fine the next day. So they must be fine. Well, that adds up over time to, scar tissue,
Sure.
imbalances, all these, overuse injuries that eventually come back to bite you. So all I'm saying is, I think for me specifically, I think Equipped is kind of what held me together for a little while until I realized like some of the dumb stuff I was doing and started training better. So I guess I don't even know what I'm arguing here. I'm just trying to
Well,
make up.
you're preaching to the choir, but I'm glad to hear you articulate it.
So I think, there's a place for Equipped, and I think a lot of people at one point, when Raw started becoming popular, I did hear people say like Equipped is basically just, the Band-Aid to keep the old broken people held together. Well, that's not exactly
No,
exactly the case.
I see a lot of the collegiate kids really giving it their best shot.
Yep.
And I know people that have been benching for over 10 years in the shirt, and they say they still haven't mastered it completely. It's an acquired taste, kind of like a fine wine or a fine whiskey that Wade Johnson might like. And if you give it a shot, you could really enjoy using equipment in this sport as it was originally started out.
Yeah. I mean, I like it, obviously I'm biased, right? I love Equipped lifting, but
I know that.
even from the coaching side, like there's so many more variables. Like obviously you still have to train properly and get strong, but then you also have to learn how to use the equipment, because just being strong, putting equipment on doesn't really do anything for you if you don't really know how to use it. And then even knowing how to use it and knowing how to maximize it are two different things. So like there's so many more variables to play with that, as a problem solving nerd, I love all the variables to mess with.
And I go back to how some people just are so gifted in terms of what they get. Let's just say out of a bed shirt, Leanne Blinn. Uh, I hope she doesn't correct me on this, but she used to bench like 230, 240 raw, and she put a bench shirt on, and this girl could bench over 400 pounds.
Yeah.
Blade Sumner. I don't know what his raw bench was, but that the raw bench champion was benching 6 and change. And I remember announcing Tom Davis in Finland when he won bench worlds, and he benched 6 something. And then Blaine Sumner could put a shirt on and bench over 1,000.
Yeah.
Look at what that guy got out of his shirt. That was freaky.
And that just wasn't, again, just for clarification here, like he didn't just put a shirt on one day and bench 1,000.
Right.
Like he spent years and years
Right.
like working at it. Anyway.
Well, Josh, are you going to be at Raw Nationals? Speaking of Raw, are you going to be at Raw Nationals in Salt Lake City?
I will be there. So yeah, registration actually opens in a couple of days for that, I think, right? I saw a social media post sometime soon.
Will you be coaching and refereeing?
I will be coaching and refereeing, assuming I have a session that I'm not coaching. I did. Right. I only had one session last year that I was able to ref, and I refed. So,
well,
hopefully I have at least one.
That means business is good, pal.
Yeah, that's not bad. It's fun. So, how was your 2023, man? Well, give me let's do this. What was your top 3 experiences of 2023?
Oh God,
just for fun.
The Arnold.
Yeah,
Which, did you see the recent posting?
I did.
We'll
Yeah.
get back to that, but the Arnold for sure. Yeah, there's always so much energy, and it's such a well-produced competition. Nationals, with the 4 simultaneous platforms and the big screens, and I enjoyed at the end, closing out the year. I enjoyed going over to London, uh, to a small town called Horncastle, northwest of London, for the start of the USAPL Euro Tour,
How
and
was that?
it was good. It was well run. Now you gotta walk before you can run. There we had people from England, we had people from France, we had people from the Netherlands, maybe Italy too, I think. But I'll tell you, the next stop is the Amsterdam in the Netherlands, coming this March 20 weekend of March 22, 23. And I got an invite, so I will be going to the second Euro Tour stop in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, and they're going to have a lot bigger showing there. So as each one moves along, the number of lifters in the competition continues to grow. So I'm looking forward to the future of USAPL International. Where we are in the other countries. I've been to Australia for our international. We also have South Korea and China and the Philippines. So I'm looking forward to us growing even more internationally, getting back into some of the traveling to some of the international locations, starting off in the Netherlands, and then we'll branch out from there and see what other Western. I'd like to get into a lot of the Western European countries, for obvious reasons, because that's where the IPF's kind of home base is,
Yeah.
and I'd like to surround them and do a fantastic job and show them what USAPL can do internationally.
Probably more important than that. When are you coming back to Georgia?
Didn't you guys have a competition this past weekend?
Yeah. So there's basically at least one meet in Georgia every month. Um, there was a back-to-back, two separate meets, back-to-back days last weekend. Yeah.
What were the meets? Oh, there were two separate meets.
Two separate meets. Yeah. Saturday was the rookie rumble meet. So it was first time lifters, and the Sunday meet was the high school state championship.
And were you at either of them?
I was not at either one.
The reason I ask is I was wondering who announced, because I pretty much am announcing almost every weekend, Josh, except for Christmas and New Year's, only because nobody runs anything on Christmas and New Year's. I mean, I even announce, on Thanksgiving and Easter, because a lot of the European countries don't celebrate that, so they want me over there. So it's almost every weekend except for Christmas and New Year's. And I did have this past weekend off,
Oh,
which
congratulations.
the
That's
first
nice.
the first weekend of the year I had off, and I did reach out a couple of times to the Georgia folks, and ask them if they wanted me to come down, knowing that I had an opening, which is very rare. But nobody called me back. So
well,
I
well,
guess that was their tacit way of saying, "We don't want you. We don't need you."
well, I don't think anybody needs you, right? Like any schmuck like myself can pick up a microphone, but there's a different level of 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 environment when Gino's on the mic.
Well, I will say there's a fellow who moved to another federation, when he would always say, I want you to come. And I would say to him exactly what you said. I would say to this fellow, I go, anybody can get on a microphone and announce a name and announce a weight. I said, your skills, this guy was good in refereeing, and he was good in setting up all the electronics and the live stream. I said, you have talents that are much more necessary than somebody on a microphone saying Josh Rohr, you know, 302.5 kilos. You know, anybody, you know why I said 302.5, don't you?
All right, I'm going to edit this. I'm thinking of a smart ass comment. I obviously know the answer.
Think of something sweet. Think of something funny.
I got nothing, man. I got
All
nothing.
right. Well, but you know, anybody can get on a mic and announce a name and a weight. Okay. Yeah. Do I do it a little differently and maybe bring some added value? Sure. But you know, I keep telling that person, no, your gifts that you have in this sport are much more needed on an ongoing basis, and we always argue that point back and forth. But I don't. Do you know who announced? Do you even know who announced that weekend?
I think it was for the high school meet. I saw. I think Robert Maley was announcing.
Yeah, they've got
and he does a good
him
job.
yeah, he does a great job, and they've got him all the time. They should be using him every weekend. They probably do.
Yeah, I think the other thing is like there's a certain prestige to having you at a meet. So the Georgia State meet is in the end of February. So I think if you were to announce at a meet before that and then not announce at the Georgia State meet, that almost like says, you know what I mean? So
I got you.
That's my theory. I don't know. I would have called you back, but I probably also would have told you to stay home and take a weekend off, or come out, but you're not announcing. We'll just hang out after.
Yeah, I took the no return on the phone call as a tacit way of saying we don't want you, without actually having to pick up the phone and say we don't want you.
Yeah, so I don't think it's ever about we don't want you. I think it's like we don't want
financial issues sometimes.
Well, yeah, I mean, it could be that for sure.
What were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say it's one of those things like you're not going to drive a Rolls Royce to a tractor pull type of situation.
Hey, that was a good one, Josh. Hey, Josh, one more thing.
Yeah.
Do you see this watch I got right here?
I do.
You know who gave me that watch?
I have no idea.
His name is Tony Harris. Mahalo, aloha. And you know my buddy Tony Lee, the referee, right?
Yeah.
Tony Lee's good buddies with him. So every time I'm at a meet where Tony's at, I walk up to Tony and say, "Hey, Tony, I don't suppose you got one of these from Tony Harris, did you?" And it really burns him up, you know, to the point now where he says, "Yeah, I got one of those tattooed on my butt." So anyway, I love sticking this in his face every time I see him, because that was a gift from Tony Harris, which I really am thankful for. And I love my buddy Tony. Mahalo, aloha.
Yeah, I love both those guys. I like to give them both a hard time too, though.
Yeah, you and me both.
Hey, so there is one thing I want to do real quick, just for everybody. So we've been kind of going through the rule book stuff, and I just released a new rule book for 2024, and there's just a couple of things I wanted to mention to make sure everybody's aware of the rule changes. So as of, I think it was like January 4th or something that it came out a couple days ago, Masters age categories are now defined by the day you are, the actual day of. So it was that Masters were just based on the calendar year. As of 2024.
That one, I missed that one in the new changes. It used to be that if you turned that age in the calendar year, you could compete before you actually had the birthday. They've changed that.
Yep. So now all the age categories are now defined the same. It's the day, it's how old you are on the day of competition, basically.
Got you. Okay.
For Masters as well. Yeah. Another clarification was on the bench press, the bulldog grip. The verbiage previously was that the thumb and four fingers had to be around the bar, but they changed that to back to four fingers gripping the bar, and with a explicit saying that says the bulldog grip is allowed, because that was creating some confusion.
As long as it's not a suicide grip.
Yeah. Your thumb has to be around the bar still,
Right.
but the four actual fingers
Can be
have
touching, but not gripping.
correct. Yeah, the wording's still gripping, but it
Gotcha.
was the way the wording was. It had to be like around the bar, as long as they're gripping, even if it's like the fingertips gripping the bar, that's still considered gripping. So,
Got you.
so basically, what it always has been, it's just the previous new rule book when it came out, the way it was worded, people took that to mean that the bulldog grip was not allowed. This is just kind of a clarification,
Confusing.
or
Yeah. They clarified that, right?
yep.
What else?
The last one is the referee uniforms. Skirts are not allowed to be worn in USA powerlifting by referees. So,
Really?
yeah. So there were, they just changed it. Also, that instead of the khaki pants, it's gray pants now. The same pants used in the national uniform.
Right.
For the state meets with the polos as well. But they just added the clarification that skirts are not allowed to be worn, because in the rule book it doesn't say anything about skirts being worn, but people were still, from the old IPF days, right? That was allowed in the IPF, but USA Powerlifting does not allow skirts for referees.
May I ask if you know the answer to this?
Sure.
Were people abusing the length of the skirt, and that's why they did away with that, or what?
Yes. So there's no specific instance, but there were, I guess the thing came up with, like, how do you regulate it, for one? Like, what is the standard? Obviously we want to have a family friendly product, right? So, like, occasionally a referee just like shifting in the chair or moving to a better view could, potentially have something that we don't want to present on the live stream, right? So that was kind of the reason.
You're such a diplomat. Let me
Yeah,
tell
I
you,
try.
pal. You say there's no specific examples. I have specific examples, but I'm going to keep my mouth shut on that.
Yeah.
However, I will tell you, I grew up in going to Catholic high school, and in Catholic high school, the sisters, the nuns, actually did walk up to the girls with a ruler to make sure that it was. I think it had to be 2 inches above the knee, and if it was hiked up more than 2 inches above the knee, they were told to go home and fix that.
Yeah.
So I, however, cannot see USAPL referees or officials walking around with a ruler with some of the female referees. That would be a little inappropriate.
Right, but that's the thing. Like, who's gonna do, like, that's the referee's job, is to enforce all the rules. So, like, as referees, are the referees gonna start measuring other referees? Yeah, it just yeah.
That's not
I
where
know
you
what you're
want
saying.
to go, pal.
Right. And it keeps more of a uniform look. Like, one referee in a skirt, two in pants. Having everybody in pants. So, dress pants.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Do you have an opinion on this? Because I do, and I'll share mine with you after I hear yours. There were two ways to go in USAPL. There was the let's just talk about the guys for a second. There's the gray slacks, the blue blazer, the white shirt, and the tie. Okay.
Yep.
And black socks and black shoes. And then there was the khaki pants, where a lot of people wore sneakers, and you had the polo shirt. Of those two uniforms, do you or did you have an opinion as to which one was better, or did it not matter to you?
It didn't really matter to me. As somebody that's colorblind, it really doesn't matter to me. But I actually liked the khaki pants. I thought it was a cool look. But wow. I agree that the referees kind of got loose with that when we were wearing tennis shoes and things like that. So, the rule book now says everybody, whether it's with the polo or with the national uniform, it's gray dress pants with black socks that cover the ankle and black dress shoes. So it specifies more clearly what is expected. And I think it just creates a more professional look. And the other, one of the other arguments for it is, when you do go from state referee to national referee, if you already bought khaki pants to referee at state meets, and now you have to buy gray dress slacks,
right?
You just buy one pair of pants instead of two. I mean, I don't know if that's a valid argument for a lot of people, but for some people, I think it is.
I agree. And I will tell you that on this one, you and I happen to disagree. You said you like the khaki look. I never liked the khaki look because I thought the khaki with the polo, they always wore tennis sneakers. I just didn't think that that was as sharp or as professional looking as the suit and the white shirt and the tie. And given that they are the referee, and then they are supposed to, epitomize what professionalism in the sport is, I always thought it looked sharper with the other, the jacket and the tie. And I know some state referees that didn't care. Either one was fine. And I know other state referees that told the referees, "You will come with the slacks and the jacket and the tie and the white shirt, even though this is a local meet." So I guess it depends upon that individual's preference.
So I thought your original question was, did I like the khaki colored pants with the polo, or the gray pants with the polo?
No, that's not what I.
Gotcha. Well, my answer is still the same, I guess. I like the look of the polo myself at local meets, but I think it needs to be the same. So like that's up to the meet director or the technical secretary or whoever to determine, at this competition, will you be in the national uniform or the local state meet uniform? And, as long as it's the same, I don't think somebody should be in the national in one chair and then the polo in another chair. I think that looks not great.
Well, no. Well, I agree with that. I've never seen different outfits. They either all have the khakis or all have the slacks and jacket. I just think the slacks and the jacket, even at the local level, looked sharper and represented, authority and what the importance of the referee is at the competition. But
yeah, I agree. I agree. It does look sharp, and I think it does look more professional. I guess I typically am always in sweatpants and a t-shirt. So like for me to put on khaki pants and a polo is like really doing myself up. Nice.
You've just moved up a class. I'm with you.
Yeah.
All right. That makes sense. Now, if I could share with you a quick story about the technical controller way back when I did a competition, an international competition, and there's a swear word in it. If you have to cut the swear word out, that's fine.
No, we don't have to cut that out.
Okay. I remember being in it was Finland, I believe, at the Worlds in Finland. And there was this Japanese fellow who was the TC, spoke no English, super nice guy, but spoke no English. Anytime you talk to him, he would look at you, would smile, and he'd go, ha, 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 ha. Yeah, because that was his answer, because he had no idea what you were saying. But he was a nice guy. But he was TC, and as a TC, he wore these Pee Wee Herman tight short pants that were almost like flood pants, and then he had brown socks that just barely came above the shoe, so his legs were showing. And then he had brown shoes, and then he had one of those sports sacks that you wear, clipped around his waist with the belt. And it was the sports sack was so huge, I could have gone away for a 3-day weekend.
Are you talking about a fanny pack?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay. Okay. I just want to make sure. I just want to make sure I'm picturing what you're actually describing.
Yeah. Okay. The reason I didn't say fanny pack is anybody from England will tell you that fanny is not a proper word to use.
Good to know.
You didn't know that, did you?
No, I didn't. But I'm still gonna call it a fanny pack.
In the United States, a fanny means your butt. Hence, a fanny pack, because you wear it on your butt. In England, it is the other side of a female.
That has a drastically different meaning when you. Okay.
So I try to stay away from calling it a fanny pack just because of my international friends. So anyway, now you know what I'm talking about. And he had a fanny pack on that was so huge he could go away for a 3-day weekend with this thing. It was so big on his waist. But it was the whole look with the tight pants and the flood pants and the socks and the skinny legs and the brown shoes. And I was sitting next to the jury table announcing, and I turned to Hani Smith, the technical chairman, out of South Africa. And I said, "Hey, Hani," I said, "I thought you already told this guy about his shoes and his pants." And he goes, and he goes, "Which guy?" I go, "The TC." And I point to him over there, and he goes, "Son of a bitch." And he calls the guy over, and he, in typical Hani fashion, he says, "Hey, man, I told you about the brown shoes and socks. If you wear them again, I'm going to fuck you up." And of course, the guy has no idea what he's saying to him because he doesn't speak English. And he just goes, "Ah," and he turns around and goes back to his spot. So, anyway, you just brought up a very funny memory from about 2016, I believe.
Oh
And
my gosh.
I hope you got a kick out of that.
Yeah, that makes me laugh. That's really funny. Oh man. So we always try to finish with the new lifter tip, too. Do you have any new lifter tip for everybody listening? Because we have a lot of kind of first time lifters that listen. Okay,
Yeah.
let me clarify. We don't have a lot of listeners, but of the few we do, the majority are first time lifters. I want to make sure I'm not misspeaking there.
Okay. Here's one tip that I like to give. Um, we changed the rule where it's no longer necessary to wear a t-shirt underneath your singlet when deadlifting, correct?
Correct.
I have seen, in my opinion, in many cases, that automatically means everybody, 90% of the lifters out there, from what I can see, do not use a shirt underneath. And I'm talking about girls and guys. You know, girls have a sports bra underneath and they have their singlet on. Guys have nothing on underneath and they have their singlet on. In my opinion, some of these guys, especially the guys that use the double overhand hook grip, sometimes it's a little bit harder to get those shoulders rolled all the way back. So the shoulders are back and the hips have come through. And I have found that if you wear a somewhat loose t-shirt underneath that singlet, it is much harder for the referees to see that your shoulders are not all the way back, and you can maybe pick up an extra white light that you might not necessarily have, or somebody is really scrutinizing your shoulders because they can see everything now because you don't have a t-shirt on. So my tip of the day is put the t-shirt on and then try to roll the shoulders back as best you can. But if they don't quite get there, the t-shirt might help you out a little then with that.
Yeah. So you're advocating for trying to trick the referees.
I can't believe, you know what? I tried to get a nice pointer out there and you just threw me under, pal. You just
I did,
threw me.
but
No, I am not advocating. I'm not advocating trying to trick the referees. I'm just advocating. I don't know what I'm advocating. Maybe they won't see it. Not that you're trying to trick them. How's that sound?
yeah, there you go. So I am going to post it and I'll make a graphic on Instagram too. So
Okay.
I'm going to use it, but yeah, Gino, I wanted to get your intent of that, whether you're trying to trick the referees or.
No, I would never. Being a referee myself, I would never say that. I'm just any tactical advantage that you can get helps. Then.
Yeah, it's not tricking. It's not doing anything wrong if it's within the rules. So.
Correct.
Yeah. That's.
Although you are such a for doing that. I would do one of these right now if I could get there next to you in Atlanta, Georgia.
But you're not.
I love you, pal.
I love you too, buddy. So we'll end on this. Hope's birthday is on Sunday.
Oh, tell her happy birthday.
I'll let you tell her. This is going to be public.
Oh, this coming Sunday. What's today?
This coming Sunday. Today is, what is today?
Thursday.
Today is we're recording on Tuesday the 9th.
Okay.
And this will come out on Wednesday the 10th, tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Well, Hope, coming up this Sunday. Happy birthday. I had nothing but hope, charity, and faith for you. And once again, all I have to say is hope, happy birthday. I hope it's a good one. And I hope that you and Josh Rohr have a good new year. It's still early enough to say that.
Yeah, it is. I appreciate it. Well, Gino, as always, it's been fun, man. I appreciate you coming on.
Can't wait to come back again, pal.
Yeah, man, it's always a good time. I appreciate you being on, and we'll hopefully see you soon. That's pretty much it. I appreciate everybody listening. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at PL Ballads Podcast. Gino, once again, thanks for joining us, man.
Thanks, Josh. Cheers.
All right, later.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode of the Powerlifting and Power Ballads podcast, please remember to subscribe and share it with your friends.